The UES, or upper esophageal sphincter, is a tonically active region, which means it stays closed. The UES is located at the bottom of the pharynx and the top of the esophagus, and when opened, it allows passage of a bolus from the pharynx to the esophagus. The opening of the UES during swallow occurs through multiple actions. There are active forces, which are dictated by the relaxation of the cricopharyngeus muscle, which is located within the upper esophageal sphincter region. While the active forces are muscular, the passive forces are mechanical. Because the cricopharyngeus muscle is attached to the cricoid and the pharynx, and because the cricoid is obliged to elevate when the hyolaryngeal complex moves up and forward, the upper esophageal sphincter is essentially stretched open by the anterior superior trajectory of the hyolaryngeal complex. Bolus driving pressures also aid in the opening of the upper esophageal sphincter. In this still image, we see the hyoid bone and the pharyngeal space, the UES, which is located at the bottom of the pharynx, and the airway at rest. Pay attention to these landmarks and see if you can locate these landmarks on your own. Now let's look at an image mid-swallow of a 15 ml swallow. Notice the higher location of the hyoid and the wide opening of the upper esophageal sphincter region. Now let's look at another still image of 5 ml nectar swallow. Now let's look at a downsampled video. You see that the UES region is closed. As the bolus moves toward the UES opens. Notice the movement of the tongue base to provide driving pressure on the bolus. The hyolaryngeal trajectory, which provides upward and forward traction on the UES, and the relaxation of the CP muscle. Now let's look at some patient samples. In this patient sample, you notice that the laryngeal complex doesn't move much. Watch the hyoid bone. It does not show us the usual superior and anterior trajectory. The end result is that there is very limited opening of the UES region. So the UES, without passive forces, is limited in its ability to provide passage of the bolus from the pharynx to the esophagus. In this patient, you'll observe reduced active forces. Notice the bar on the posterior pharyngeal wall during UES opening. This represents a CP muscle that has not turned off while the passive forces are at their peak. Watch this last example and discuss with your peers. Describe to each other how the UES is behaving. Now let's test your knowledge. What are the mechanisms that support UES opening during the swallow? What happens when active forces or passive forces are inadequate?